Hi, thanks everybody for coming. I'm State Representative Brandon Dillon, and I appreciate everybody coming out today. As we all know, Michigan's working families are hurting. Outsizing, downsourcing, the loss of our manufacturing base, all these have taken a heavy toll on our state's middle class. Many have lost the jobs they depend on to put food on the table and to provide for their families. Our workers simply deserve better. That's why the House of Representatives, over the past few years, has put forward and passed the Hire Michigan First plan, which ensures that when taxpayer dollars are spent, Michigan workers get first crack at those jobs. The House has passed this plan multiple times since it was first introduced. Unfortunately, Republicans in the House and the Senate have gutted the plan and removed, important protections for Michigan workers. They've made our workers wait long enough. And frankly, I don't think they can wait any longer. We're here today to say that we're not going to give up the fight, that we're going to continue pushing forward to protect Michigan workers and Michigan jobs. Tomorrow, I will introduce the Hire Michigan First plan again to make sure that when tax dollars are used to create jobs, that those jobs go to Michigan residents. Michigan will spend nearly $3 billion this year on tax incentives. These state funds are designed to diversify Michigan's economy and attract job providers to our state. However, currently we have no way of knowing how many jobs we're getting in return for these tax breaks. Hire Michigan First will put people back to work right now by making sure that Michigan workers come first. Now more than ever, state leaders have to work together to make sure that each and every tax dollar is being used on what matters most. Supporting our workers should not be a partisan issue. Whether Democrat or Republican, all of us have the same goal, which is to improve our economy and create jobs. As we work together to achieve this goal, we have to do everything we can to support our workers and put them back on the job, not tomorrow, but right now. While the talk of bipartisanship in Lansing and collaboration is something we need to help us reach these goals, I'm hopeful that this bipartisan talk will translate into bipartisan action. Michigan has the best workforce in the country, but imagine for a moment how painful it is for a displaced worker to see someone from Ohio or Indiana or Tennessee take a job that his or her tax dollars helped create, a job that they're perfectly qualified to do and that they need in order to provide for his or her family. It's not right and it doesn't make sense. When Michigan uses taxpayer dollars to award tax breaks and other incentives, we should make sure that our workers benefit. And that's exactly what Hire Michigan First is all about. Our plan rewards companies that hire Michigan workers. The plan does this by giving these companies priority in the awarding of grants, loans, and tax abatements from state economic development programs. The more Michigan workers a company hires, the better chance they have of receiving tax breaks and other economic development incentives. Our plan also makes sure that Michigan workers are the one building state buildings. Right now, businesses that contract with the state for the construction of state buildings only have to guarantee that 50% of their workers are Michigan residents. That, frankly, is ridiculous. Our plan makes sure that that would increase to 100%. If you're building a state of Michigan building, you have to use workers from the state of Michigan. It's that simple. Exceptions will be made if no qualified Michigan workers apply for the jobs, but these exceptions should be very rare. When we create jobs and protect taxpayer dollars, we're supporting our working families, and that helps drive our economy forward. We need to send a clear and simple message that taxpayer dollars in the state of Michigan should be used to create jobs for Michigan workers. The Hire Michigan First plan is about bringing common sense to state government by making sure we put Michigan workers and their families first, and increasing the accountability and transparency that is severely lacking in the way Michigan awards tax incentives. As I stated earlier, Michigan will spend nearly $3 billion this year alone on tax incentives, but we have no way of knowing how many jobs we're getting in return for those tax breaks. To me, that means the state is not doing its job. Our workers deserve better, and frankly, our taxpayers deserve better too. They deserve to know exactly what we're getting for our tax dollars, especially in these challenging economic times with state resources as scarce as we all know they are, we must make sure that every taxpayer dollar is used wisely and effectively to support our residents. The Hire Michigan First plan will make sure that our workers benefit from the jobs that their taxpayer dollars help create. It will require companies receiving economic development tools like tax incentives to report who they were hiring to make sure they are indeed hiring Michigan workers whenever possible. This brings the transparency and accountability in state government that our taxpayers deserve and make sure that companies are putting Michigan companies and Michigan workers first. The plan also cracks down on companies that hire undocumented workers. In addition to hurting Michigan workers, companies that hire undocumented workers give themselves an unfair advantage over businesses that play by the rules and do the right thing. Under this plan, companies that intentionally break the law this way will be subject to strict new penalties. These could include being required to pay their tax incentive back or being barred from any future consideration of state contracts. Again, state taxpayer money should go towards creating jobs for Michigan workers, and Michigan taxpayers should know that their taxpayer dollars are supporting the economy in their community. We need to come down hard on businesses that accept taxpayer money under the guise of creating jobs only to bring in undocumented workers to maximize their own bottom line. They should not be rewarded for avoiding their responsibilities when other companies are fulfilling theirs. The practice of hiring undocumented workers disregards the training and expertise our residents who are ready, willing, and able to provide the workforce that businesses need. We can't turn our back on Michigan workers. We must provide our local workers with as many employment opportunities as possible. This plan does that. The Hire Michigan First plan is about getting serious when it comes to rewarding businesses that create jobs for our workers. And it's about using every tool possible to put Michigan workers back to work right now. Michigan's dedicated, hardworking men and women are the backbone of our state and our state's economy. And we'll continue to stand by our workers during these tough economic times so that they can earn a living. Our tax dollars should not be creating jobs for undocumented workers or people from other states when people in our state are ready, willing, and able to do the jobs and do them well. When we have workers who are ready to do the job right here at home, we've got to make sure that our state policies are in line with the goals that they want for their families. The Hire Michigan First plan fixes this problem by making sure that scarce taxpayer resources create jobs for Michigan workers. It also requires companies that get state contracts for buildings to hire 100% of their workers from the state of Michigan. And it cracks down on companies that knowingly hire undocumented workers to get by the rules. It's the right thing to do for Michigan workers and to lead Michigan's economic turnaround. We all know we must work across party lines to put people back to work and to turn our economy around. But we have learned in the past from former Republican elected officials who blocked the Hire Michigan First plan that talking about bipartisanship sounds good, but it means nothing if you don't back it up with action. You can't do nothing and call it leadership. It's going to take a true bipartisan effort, which House Democrats have been demanding for years. I'm optimistic that new colleagues in both the House and the Senate and our new administration, that we can get the Hire Michigan First plan for our working families. The time to act on this plan is now, not tomorrow or sometime in the future. We simply can't afford to wait any longer. This is a good plan that will bring real tangible results for Michigan families and Michigan workers as soon as we get it passed. I'm hopeful that we can do it as soon as possible this session. And I thank you for coming today and be happy to take any questions if anybody has any. Well, thanks a lot. If anybody wants to stick around and talk for a few minutes, I'll be here. But I appreciate everybody coming and look forward to getting to work on this package as soon as possible. Thanks a lot.